All right. So many screens. Let's see. I think we're live. Good morning. My name is Eve Mayer, and yes, I did wake up like this. My hair is exceptionally huge today. What happened was I only had my daughter's shampoo this past week, and I washed my hair, and then I realized it was volumizing shampoo, which with this hair is the last thing you need to happen. So don't worry, it's going to get washed again today, and no one will have to see this wide hair. Megan, how's it going this morning?
It's going okay, thank you.
Good, okay.
A little bit of a rough morning, too. We were actually supposed to be out and about off to Niagara on the Lake. It's our wedding anniversary today. My fast starts tomorrow. My New Year's fast tomorrow. But we had some family emergencies yesterday, so everything's fine. But we had a later night than anticipated. But we're still going to have a nice day since everything's fine. Just a little bit later. I have a lack of hair volume issues. So everybody, we just look like your hair. The grass is always greener on the other side. You're going to experience that with people and their weight loss journey. Someone might lose a lot of inches, but not a lot of pounds, and you might be losing a lot of pounds, but not a lot of inches. And it's just like your hair. You can't win, but at the end of the day, you all get to where you want to be. In an hour, I'll have great volume in my hair.
How do you do that? What do you have to do to how do you make it bigger?
I'm lazy. I just blow dry my hair upside down. And I put in a spray that sort of holds it there. So anyways, it works.
I don't know how that works. Well, welcome everybody. Not only are we going to tell you how to lose weight, we're going to tell you how to volumize your hair. This is like a multifaceted approach. Welcome to day 2 of the 10-day fast. I'm Eve Mayer. I'm the person currently not eating. Megan's going to stop eating tomorrow, but I am the novice and Megan is the pro who is guiding me through this. So it's interesting that you were just talking about that because I collected all the questions that I saw, not all of them, but I collected the ones that I saw the most yesterday from our live post. So if you're joining us live, and you're sending us questions, we do have Levi who is moderating and helping you find links to things. But we are not looking at your questions right now. I will look at them at the end of today, and we will include some of them in our day 3 live video. One of the main things is very interesting because we're just talking about it is people were talking about hair loss while fasting. For me personally, that's not something I've experienced. Now, I've had 3 bariatric surgeries, and I also did not experience hair loss with the bariatric surgeries either. I mean, look at me. That's just not a problem I have. Lots of other problems. That's not one of them. And I really think, I don't know, I wonder if it's because I've never gotten to where I didn't have enough nutrients lack of nutrients to lose hair. I'm not sure what it is. So can you, Megan, talk a little bit about why do people get hair loss at times while fasting? And is that common?
Yeah, absolutely. So hair loss is one of everybody's biggest fears because they think if they're not eating, then they're depriving themselves of nutrients, and that has to have negative repercussions. But it actually doesn't. Our bodies are pretty smart. So after a couple of days of not eating, it realizes that we aren't consuming stuff. So it takes what it has and it uses it a lot more effectively and efficiently so we can use what we have so that all of the nutrients, all the minerals inside of us, it uses them a lot more effectively rather than using them nilly-willy because they know you're going to eat again. So hair loss is not actually associated with fasting. Hair loss is associated with weight loss and rapid weight loss. So people who don't experience rapid weight loss don't really experience any issues with hair loss. People who tend to do more intermittent fasting, where they're losing sort of a steady amount of weight week in and week out, their bodies anticipate that shift in body weight change every week. It's for people who tend to do longer fasts or people who do intermittent fasting but just lose a lot of weight very quickly. Any major shift in body composition where you see a sudden huge reduction in body fat is going to result in hair loss. And this is something that's observed with all kinds of diets: calorie restriction diet, Atkins diet, South Beach diet, ketogenic diet, all on its own, even without fasting incorporated into it. So it's more scary for people who are fasting, because I think that something's got to be really, really wrong, because they're not eating, and now they're having negative repercussions. And a lot of the times I actually see this with my male patients in clinic more so than my female patients. Us females have a longer history of doing calorie restriction diets. We tend more often than not to be the primary cooks at home. I'm not. So I know it's not the same in every household.
Yeah.
It didn't feed me. I sustain on bacon. So it's not the same, but typically with a lot of the patients I see, the females are the main cooks at home most of the time. So they're not fasting as long. It's not as easy for them to fast as long. And because of their history of calorie restriction and all these crazy diets that we've tried in the past, their metabolic rates are pretty slow. So they're not able to lose rapid weight loss. It tends to happen more in the men who haven't really dieted in the past. You know, a few times in their lives, they've tried to drop 10 or 30 pounds, but nothing really consistent. So these guys, they'll suddenly, like within the first 6 to 8 weeks of fasting and being mindful of their foods, will drop a lot of body fat really quickly. And then their hair thins out. And it's a lot easier to notice on a man than a woman in certain cases. And they all freak out. They're like, Megan, you're making me go bald. What are
Oh, no. Oh my gosh.
I tell them, I said, there's a couple of things, you know, we can stop this by slowing down the weight loss, like now. If the weight loss is still very rapid, we can slow it down now, and you'll start to see the hair loss stop and the hair regrowth happen. Or if you can just wait it out for another couple of weeks till your body stops losing so much body fat rapidly, and you start losing, 1 to 2 pounds a week on a consistent basis. So most people don't want to stop. They're getting this epic progress in weight loss, but then eventually it does settle down and plateau to 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss a week. And when it happens after a few weeks, the hair loss stops and it starts to grow in pretty thick again. And it's the most evident on men. So I've seen men, thin out and get queasy about it, and I feel for them. But, within a couple of months, they've got this nice thick head of hair. I have very thin hair. Actually, like my hair is so thin naturally. I have got fake hair taped into it.
It looks real though. You told me that last time and I was like amazed.
Yeah, so my hair is pretty thin. And when I first started fasting, I lost a lot of weight the first month. And I just remember like brushing my hair after the shower, and it was like a whole rat's nest in my brush. And I just wanted to cry. I'm like, I found something that's actually working for weight loss. I can't believe it, but I'm losing my hair. And, just through talking, with my colleagues, it's not abnormal with that much weight loss. And sure enough, in month 2, I started losing about 2 pounds a week pretty consistently. And by the end of month 2, there was no hair in my hairbrush, a couple of strands, nothing.
And so the hair that you lost, did those spots come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the hair tends to grow in pretty thick again, or as thick as it's capable of. Yeah. I was hoping for some like miracle here, and then gave up on that. But it's very common when losing a lot of body fat. So you can either wait it out and it will all be okay, or you can just slow down your fat loss. So that means going from like a 36-hour fast to a 24-hour fast, or if you're doing like 3 or 5 days of fasting pretty consistently, trying to do intermittent fasting instead, and just trying to make sure you're losing the same amount of weight roughly week in and week out. A second time where it might happen is as you get healthier, though, your body needs change. I remember years ago, like with myself, if I ate 12 ounces of steak, I'd be kicked out of ketosis. And ketosis means fat burning mode. So eating that much steak, which has no carbs in it, would actually kick me out of fat burning mode, because what would happen is that all of the protein in that steak, my body didn't need all that protein. So what it did is it took the protein that it didn't need and it converted it to sugar. So I'd eat a 12-ounce steak and I'd stop burning body fat. My blood sugar levels would go up because I didn't need the amount of protein in that steak. But now, as a much healthier individual with a lot of insulin sensitivity, not a whole lot of insulin resistance, and also I'm about a trillion times more active than I am now than I was 7 years ago. So I'm weight training and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I actually need that much protein. I need more protein. So when I eat that 12 ounces of steak, I still stay in deep ketosis, deep fat burning mode. Most of my fat burning comes from my diet now rather than body fat. I have a little bit of body fat to lose, but I had to increase my fat intake dramatically. So what works for you today, like on day one of your journey or early on in your journey, in terms of what you need to take to be healthy and to feel good, is going to change many times. I always joke I've been like 7 different versions of Megan over the last 7 years. Each year my body becomes healthier, and as it becomes healthier, it has different needs. And so eventually you're going to need more protein later on. And so when I work with someone like Eve, who's a little bit further along in their journey, that they've reached their goal weight, or they're 10 pounds from their goal weight, or they've reversed their diabetes, but they're still fasting for their liver, but they've been doing this for a couple of years now. One of the signs that they need more protein in their diet is actually their hair starts to thin out. So we don't, like, I don't tell people to, human beings, even myself, our instincts are to go, like balls to the wall with everything. So if you need protein, then eat a lot of protein. And that's not the case. Even just increasing your protein by 10 or 20 grams a day can actually halt hair loss. So if you're later on in your journey and you're experiencing that, try increasing your protein by just 10 or 20 grams. It's only an ounce, of meat a day. It's not a huge amount. You don't have to go crazy. Taking too much protein then will be problematic too. So just increase it a little bit.
Thank you, Megan. I know that a lot of people have fear around that, and I can absolutely understand it. So thank you. Everybody, you're joining us on day 2 of my 10-day fast. Megan is going to be coaching me through this process. I started at 193, I think it was 193.4. I have pictures of it. Today I was at 192.2. I didn't kill my husband, which was good this morning because he did a 24-hour fast, not a complete fast, and he lost more weight than I did in a day. So, thank goodness he's so awesome and I love him. But he, I think he's like 1 pound heavier than me right now. And I'm always like, God darn it. And so I try to stay like a little bit under him because I finally got there. So that, that everybody loses weight at a different rate. And I know that we sometimes compare ourselves. Well, at least I try not to, but I often do. And it's just so interesting for me online listening to people fast. Someone will fast for 3 days and lose, 7 pounds, and someone will fast for 3 days and lose half a pound, and someone will fast for 3 days and lose no pounds. One of the questions people that were asking yesterday was, they would say something like, I've been doing intermittent fasting for a while and I'm just really not losing weight. And I didn't know how to succinctly answer why that might be. I know that happens sometimes, but I thought maybe you could do a better job at answering why someone's consistently fasting and not losing weight.
Yeah, so you got to change it up. And that's the bottom line. Our bodies do adapt, and you've got to change it up. A lot of people too think that a 16-8 or an 18-6 fast, so meaning that you're skipping breakfast and just having lunch and dinner. A lot of people think that that's intermittent fasting. It's not. Like, it's intermittent fasting that might help prevent a little bit of disease in a very healthy individual with no insulin issues, no metabolic issues. Doing sort of 16 or 18 hours of fasting might actually generate a little bit of autophagy, which is a deep cellular recycling process people like to experience for anti-aging and disease prevention. So in a ketogenic individual, so someone who eats very low carb, they might get some benefits, a little bit of benefits doing a 16-8, and they'll be able to maintain their weight and not have to worry about developing insulin resistance or insulin-related issues doing a 16-8. But that's not a therapeutic treatment. It's not. And you have to think of fasting as a therapeutic treatment for weight loss. So a 16-8 fast or an 18-6, that's just for maintenance. That's what we ask our patients to do on eating days. Like, forget fast. That's not a fast. It's an eating day. It's a proper eating day that's going to lead towards good health and good habits in the long term. So it's great, but it's an eating day. And I see a lot of people on the Facebook groups talking about doing that, and it's just not very helpful. A 24-hour fast rarely works for women who have struggled with weight loss for most of their lives, or struggled with weight gain rather. A 24-hour fast rarely works. The only case that it works well in women is initially at the start, because you will drop a lot of body weight or body water weight. It is a big shock to your system, but eventually our metabolic rates are so slow as a result of all this calorie restriction dieting that we've done in the past that we bottom out doing a 24-hour fast very early on, and it doesn't become very effective in the long term for losing weight. So a 24-hour fast is great for people who don't have a history of dieting. So when a patient of mine will come into clinic, or I'll meet them like this in a Zoom call, and they'll say, but we saw so-and-so on Facebook. And I've actually reached out to these people, and I'll talk to this woman, and I'll say, what diets have you tried in the past? And the woman would always respond, well, I've never really dieted that much in the past. Now that my weight gain's causing me illness, I decided I should probably lose the weight. So this woman who got all these great results doing a 24-hour fast, well, they never had a history of dieting. They don't have a damaged metabolic rate. So yeah. A lot of ladies do. I mean, I was taught in like middle school how to count calories by like aunts and grandmothers to be mindful of my weight. So a lot of us have a history of keeping tabs on those calories. So I really encourage people to try to do more intermittent fasting, but like 36 and 42 hours of intermittent fasting. So that essentially means a 36-hour fast means you're fasting like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you don't feel like eating breakfast or you don't feel like eating dinner, people who eat earlier on in the day tend to not want to eat later on in the day. So either or, that means that you're doing a 42-hour fast if you're just taking 2 meals on your eating days. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'd have lunch and dinner, or breakfast and lunch instead. And that would be a 42-hour fast. And that's very effective for women and men who have a lot of insulin resistance. Even men who don't have a history of dieting and who don't have the extra hormones like estrogen that women have to combat when we're losing weight. Even then, they struggle if they have a lot of insulin resistance and they have to do more fasting. So the 36, 42-hour fast 3 times a week tends to get really great results. So I would say shake it up, change it up. And if you're doing 24s or 16s and you talk to your doctor and your doctor says it's perfectly okay to do a little bit more fasting, then I would try to push the envelope a little bit more and do more 36 and 42s. A lot of the time, people think that it's not sustainable, and it's not always sustainable. I thought myself, if I couldn't do 3 42-hour fasts a week, then I was a failure, because Fridays were always problematic for me. And then I thought to myself, well, why? I'm the only one that's deciding whether or not this is a success or a failure. Why do I really need to fast for 42 hours on Fridays if I'm fasting every Monday and every Wednesday religiously for 42 hours? I can just do a 24-hour fast on Friday and I'll lose less weight, but it all adds up. So my main regimen was 2 42-hour fasts plus 124. If I didn't have plans on the Friday, then I would do a 42-hour fast if I was going home. But you really have control with it, and the more you change it up, the better, and the more you mix it up, the better too. So those are my 2 cents on breaking through a plateau.
I love it. Thank you so much, Megan, for that. We had another question with someone who is trying to learn how to fast and is doing 16 hours. And every time she gets to 16 hours, she gets nauseated and she can't figure out what to do. So yesterday you were saying, look, if you ever get nauseated, that's when you end a fast. But she can't get past it. Is there anything she should try? I asked her. She's having coffee and water. Those are the things she's having.
I would cut back on the caffeine. Caffeine's a
Okay.
diuretic. So most people don't go too crazy with it. So it doesn't become problematic. But if you're really struggling if you're getting nauseous, you're having electrolyte issues. That's the bottom line. I mean, it can be for other health reasons. So I would definitely encourage this lady to go to her doctor and make sure that everything's okay. Especially if there's a possibility of type 1 diabetes or latent onset type 1 diabetes. It's not that you can never fast if you have those conditions. You just need to be aware of it because there's certain
Yeah.
things you need to put in place. But most of the time in people who aren't type 1 or latent onset type 1 diabetics, it's about electrolytes. So I would always go get your electrolytes checked out. It's always good to know. I have 2 low sodium and 2 high potassium because of adrenal fatigue issues, and it has gotten better with time. But it's good to know because if I were to overdo it with potassium on my fasting days, I'd feel really sick because my potassium levels are on the higher side. And it's actually the sodium that makes me feel better when I'm fasting. So it's always good to know what you have. And we're also different. Electrolytes are so unique to the individual, and you can't think of it as genetic. My mother has like dangerously low potassium, whereas I have quite high potassium. So these are very individual things that, have no hereditary impact, and all of our bodies are unique. So one of the main things, though, if you are feeling symptomatic of dehydration, is cut out the coffee, cut out the tea. Even actually my New Year's resolution, I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions, but I do think if you have these little ones, it's important to be mindful of. So I sustain on tea, and I actually get dehydrated because of the caffeine in tea. And you might think there's not a whole lot of caffeine in green tea, but 8 cups into it, there's a lot of caffeine. Yeah, I'm crazy. So I have long days, but it ends up being a lot of caffeine, and I get pretty dehydrated. My lips are always cracked, like even in August. My skin's always so dry. The lady that does my nails, she always is like, "Well, your skin, let me do something to your face to make it more hydrated." So my New Year's resolution is to drink 2 cups of water for every cup of tea that I have, just to stay hydrated. And when I fast, I always have to have that rule. If I'm drinking tea when I'm fasting, or else I'll get too dehydrated. So I would scale back on the caffeine
Okay.
or have 2 cups of water for every cup of tea or coffee you do have during the fast. And then see what your electrolytes are. You probably need to supplement with some sodium. Sodium's the magical gatekeeper of all of the electrolytes. If you keep your sodium levels happy, your potassium levels and your magnesium levels will stay happy. Supplementing with potassium or magnesium is not going to keep your sodium levels happy, not at all. And when your sodium levels get too low, your body holds on to what's left, and it says, okay, Megan needs to go pee, or Eva needs to go pee, but her sodium's so low, we better sacrifice potassium and magnesium in its place to hold on to this little bit of sodium. So if you let your sodium go too low, then you put your magnesium and potassium at risk for going too low. But if you keep your sodium levels happy, your magnesium and potassium levels stay happy. So I know there's different Facebook groups out there that use our name and have these electrolyte guides that you should be taking when you're fasting. And it's frustrating. We have all these conversations with them saying, hey, we don't agree with that. We've never supplemented with potassium, except for patients who have critically low potassium levels, like life-threatening low potassium levels, if we're going to fast them. We just supplement with salt. So if you don't have congestive heart failure issues, if you don't have kidney failure issues, then adding a pinch, like a quarter of a teaspoon of salt to your water in the morning can make a big difference in how you feel throughout the day.
When you talk about salt, one of the guidance, I've heard a lot of different guidance on salt, and everybody's different, but one just general one I've heard is about 1.5 teaspoons of salt per day. Is that correct? Is that a general standard to look at?
That's a great baseline. 1.5 teaspoons is a great baseline. And for some people that works really well. But then there's individuals that just need more. I usually encourage my patients, my clients, to start with 1 teaspoon a day and break it up into 1/4 chunks. If you take it all at once, you could have an emergency bathroom issue because it can stimulate your colon to get moving and grooving, and that's not always wanted. And if it's a big shock to your system, if you're someone who doesn't take a lot of salt on a regular basis, you could feel a little queasy, pretty sleepy, and not great. So just taking 1/4 teaspoon, and if you find that you need more, then keep adding another 1/4 teaspoon. So 1.5 teaspoons is a great place to start, or 1 teaspoon, and then just increase it by 1/4 teaspoon. You know, if you start to feel kind of queasy at 3, then at 3 add another 1/4 teaspoon. If you're feeling kind of foggy still at 4, then add another 1/4 teaspoon, and find your own sweet spot. My sweet spot's actually 3 teaspoons, but I have very low sodium, and I have a hard time keeping my sodium levels up. So we're all so unique. I wish there was like one magic pill that would work perfectly and give us all the same amount of sodium that we need, but we're all such unique people. You really have to figure out what works for you, because like what works for Eve is not going to work for me, and it's not going to work for her husband or my husband. We're all so unique.
Thank you, Megan. And so guys, if you're just tuning in, we are talking about day 2 of my 10-day fast, and Megan is leading me. I got to be honest, I'm a pretty practiced intermittent faster. So far I feel fine. I got a little hungry last night, 24 hours in, and was grumpy for like 30 to 45 minutes. And then I was fine. So as we get further into this week, Megan's going to be doing more coaching. I usually start to lose my mind around day 3. So you'll get to see me all at my best around there. But until then, I really have just been collecting the questions that most of you guys have been sending and asking them. So the last thing I want to cover today, well, 2 things. First of all, Megan, when we talk about, there's a lot of different Facebook groups, and a lot of people are watching this on the official Facebook group, but we're also going to have it in many other places. So can you just give us the name of the official Facebook group that you guys run?
Yes, it's called the Obesity Code Network, Fasting Support with Megan Ramos and Dr. Jason Fung.
So if anybody needs a link, reach out to Megan and I. Also, you can check out Megan's program that she runs at idmprogram.com. You can check out my site at fastinglane.com. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is blood tests. So as you can see, I am drinking water. I'm not drinking coffee. I'm really angry about it because I'm going to get my blood test this morning. The blood test I want to do it yesterday, but it was, the first day of the year, so they were closed. And so I'm going to do my blood test today for before my fast, and then I'm going to do one after my fast. You can actually go to idmprogram.com, and there are blood tests there that they suggest you get, that you talk to your doctor about getting. And I'm getting the ones that you suggested I get, which I don't remember what they are right now, but can you talk a little bit about when should a person look at getting a blood test? Like if you're just doing intermittent fasting, maybe that doesn't make sense, and what should they consider?
Yeah, so it's always great while you're doing a long fast, I think, for us to individually experiment and see how our body changes during a long fast. You get weird results. Like some diabetics might actually expect their blood sugar levels to go low, but they actually go quite high, because as you burn body fat, you release stored sugar. So we can sometimes see a person's blood sugar levels go up when they're fasting. And of course, you're going to see triglycerides go up when you're fasting, because your body's releasing fat into your blood to fuel off of. So you get these kind of funky results when you're fasting. When I have a patient who's doing like a 7-day fast or a 10-day fast, we definitely check their blood work in between, especially for minerals and electrolytes, just to make sure they're staying nice and hydrated. And we'll check for inflammatory markers too, like high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And check to make sure that goes down. For more regular blood work, we actually ask our patients to not fast for more than 12 or 13 hours. And we ask them to actually not fast for 3 to 5 days leading up to the blood test, because you need to stabilize your body weight. It's okay. I'll take my blood work at any point in time, because I know if I'm 37 hours into a fast, I know to anticipate that my blood sugar levels might be a little bit higher than normal because I'm fasting and I'm burning body fat. So you'll see these changes, but it's great because you'll also get to see the impact on your hemoglobin A1C, so your 120-day average of your blood sugars. You'll be able to sort of see the impact on your inflammation and your electrolytes. So it's perfectly okay to take your blood work at any point in time, but it's important to know that fasting might affect it, especially the lipid panel. Fasting has a huge impact on your cholesterol levels. And the reason why is, LDL and HDL are transportation vehicles. So as things are being broken down or built in our body, HDL and LDL are very active driving parts to places in our body that need parts and are picking up the leftovers of a construction site in your body and taking it back to the liver. So HDL and LDL are just little vehicles that leave from the liver, and they either take stuff to your spleen where your spleen needs some help, and then they pick up what's left over of those construction bits from your spleen and they take it back to the liver. So they're very busy driving back and forth. So when you're burning body fat, you got lots of things breaking down. So you especially have a lot of LDL, because LDL is a vehicle that takes the stuff back to the liver. So when you've got a lot of body fat breaking down, then LDL is going, like it's just zooming out of the liver to pick up these parts. And if you're fueling on body fat, your triglyceride levels are going to be up a little bit. So for people who are doing a lipid panel, though, we ask them to try to stop all weight loss for 3 days before their blood tests. Dave Feldman actually goes into a lot of detail about this on cholesterolcode.com. Dave Feldman's an engineer, but he's probably more knowledgeable than all of the lipidologists on the planet. So he's done a lot of mass experimenting with people fasting at different stages in their cholesterol levels. So he's got some really cool data to share. I think with Eve, we're really checking minerals, electrolytes, and inflammatory markers on the blood work that she's doing right now, which is great because, even though she's a little bit more, she's in day 2 of her fast, we should see some pretty good baseline numbers from those, and then we'll be able to see how they're affected afterwards. So it's just really something for the lipid panel, for those cholesterol markers to be mindful of, that you don't want to actually be in a state of burning body fat for about 3 days before you do that test.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to go get it today. I'm going to share my results with you guys in one of these calls. We're going to wrap up this call. I just wanted to let you know a couple things. We actually introduced our fastinglane.com podcast yesterday, and we have Dr. Jason Fung, who we got to interview. So check us out at fastinglane.com and click podcasts and subscribe. Check that out. We'll post it also again in the group later on this week. Sign up at idmprogram.com. A lot of people have been asking about preparing for a fast and using a fat fast. Megan has an excellent blog on there about that I've been reposting. So check that out. Tomorrow, we will be back for day 3 at 7:30 a.m. CST. We'll have an event. We'll be here again. I'll probably be okay tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I'm down 1 pound. I think we will continue to probably look at the questions that come in today and probably focus on that tomorrow. And then we'll get more into the meat of coaching this week. But Megan, go have a fabulous anniversary. And thank you so much for helping us today.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Happy fasting.
Oh, thanks, Megan. Bye.